All right, so today we're diving into something pretty intense, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Rebuilding trust.
Okay. After betrayal.
Yeah, exactly. Like when it's really broken, not
Mhm.
just like little misunderstandings,
Right.
We've got this lecture that goes deep on it.
I bet. Everyone's dealt with this on some level.
Whether it's happened to you or you've seen it with, like, friends.
Yeah. Or family. Betrayal hits hard.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is pull out the stuff that's actually useful from this thing. You're probably not in crisis mode right now, so.
Right. Let's get practical.
Exactly. Maybe it'll help you, maybe you'll help a friend, but understanding this stuff is good for everyone.
Agreed.
First thing that jumped out at me, the lecture compares trust to, like, the foundation of a house.
Makes sense.
If it's shaky.
Everything falls apart.
Right. And they're not just being poetic, there's actual science behind this.
Oh, yeah. Ton of research. Like, high trust equals more happiness, even better health.
No.
Yeah. There is this study, let me see, 2019 Journal of Personality and Social Psychology.
Fancy.
Found that people who trusted their close relationships, like really trusted them, had lower blood pressure, less stress hormones.
So it's not just touchy-feely.
Oh, no, it's real. But here's the thing that kind of bummed me out.
What's that?
They said trust is way easier to break than to rebuild.
Ugh. Yeah, that figures. Like one dumb thing can wreck years of.
Exactly. Which is why this whole topic is so...
Delicate.
Yeah, delicate and complex. The lecture gets into what happens after betrayal. It's a mess.
Emotionally, you mean?
Big time. Anger, sadness, confusion.
Right.
Even like, you can't believe it's happening.
Right. They use this example, Emma and Jake, right? He betrays her trust. She's totally blindsided.
Talk about a mood swing. 1 minute they're planning a life together.
The next she's like, do I know this guy at all?
And it goes beyond the feelings, too. The whole power dynamic shifts in the relationship.
Ooh, interesting. How so?
The betrayed person, they feel weak, vulnerable.
Makes sense.
Betrayer's got guilt, shame.
Oof, yeah.
And that makes it really hard to fix things, even if both people want to.
Because they're not starting from an even playing field anymore.
Exactly. Plus, there's fear on both sides.
Oh, for sure.
Betrayed person's scared of getting hurt again.
Makes total sense.
Betrayer's scared of losing the relationship, period.
And that fear can make you act in ways that just make things worse.
You got it.
Yeah.
So the lecture gets into solutions, but it's not easy stuff.
What's the first step then?
Accountability. Big time.
Mm,
But they're super clear. Sorry, ain't enough.
really? I mean, it's a start, right?
Gotta go deeper.
Mm.
Both people need to understand why it happened.
So it doesn't happen again.
Exactly. Betrayer needs that to change. Betrayed person needs it to.
To heal.
Exactly. To make sense of it. Regain some control. But even then,
Yeah.
communication's got to be top-notch after this. The lecture even used the word safe.
Safe to talk, you mean?
Yeah, like no judgment, really hearing each other. Think about a time you couldn't speak freely. It eats at you.
Oh, totally. Secrets and all that. Breed suspicion.
There's a study on this too, believe it or not. Couples who had deep talks after betrayal.
Deep talks. Like therapy style.
Kinda, yeah. They ended up more connected than before the whole thing.
Oh, really? Unexpected.
Right. Shows how powerful honesty can be. But how to do it is the tricky part.
Well, the lecture gives some tips, right?
Yeah, like schedule talks when you're both calm, not in the heat of the moment.
Good point. Emotions run high. You see stuff you don't mean.
And at statements, I feel hurt when, that kind of thing. Less blamey.
Makes it less scary to actually
Right.
do the talking.
Yeah.
But then, even after that,
There's more.
boundaries. This is where it gets, like, tricky. Lecture calls it the rules of the game.
After a betrayal, yeah, what's okay, what's not okay. But how strict to be,
That's a debate, huh?
big time. Some folks say be super clear. Others say that creates more anxiety.
So what's the answer?
Depends on the people. No one size fits all. Like, remember Emma and Jake?
The couple from before.
Yeah, they decided to share phone passwords, locations for a while.
Ooh, that's intense.
Uncomfortable, but it helped. Just an example, though. Point is.
Finding what works for you.
Exactly. But here's the biggest thing the lecture stresses. Rebuilding trust.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Well, like a really long hike. They said 1 to 2 years on average.
No kidding.
Honestly, kind of takes the pressure off if you're still struggling after a few months.
It's normal.
Exactly. But you got to celebrate the small wins along the way. Like had a good conversation without it turning into a fight.
That's a win.
Exactly. Didn't spend all day suspicious.
Another win.
It's about those small things adding up, like building any habit. You got to stay motivated somehow.
So even if it's slow going,
There's still progress. Got to recognize it to keep going. Remember, rebuilding trust, it's a process. It's not.
like flipping a switch.
Nope. Takes effort. Setbacks, doubts. But you keep showing up, putting in the work.
And hopefully...
It gets better.
Okay. But there's this whole other thing the lecture gets into. Forgiveness.
Ooh, yeah, that's a landmine.
Totally. And they start by saying, forgiving does not mean what happened was okay.
Right. Like you're not saying it was no big deal.
Not at all. And it doesn't let the other person off the hook.
Exactly. It's more about you.
You, the one who was betrayed.
Yeah. The lecture says there's different views on this. Some people need forgiveness to move on.
Makes sense.
Others, if it's forced, it actually hurts more. Like resentment builds up.
So it has to be genuine, on your own terms.
Totally. There was a study, 2020 Journal of Counseling Psychology, found that real forgiveness, freely given,
That's the key.
leads to more happiness, better relationships, but forced forgiveness backfires.
So how do you even know if you should forgive?
The lecture's point is it's about you, not the other person, like to release anger.
Not to give them a pass.
Right. They
Yeah.
give this example. Emma, remember.
Jake betrayed her trust.
She wrote him this long letter, all her feelings, everything, but never sent it.
Wow.
It was forgiveness for herself. Let go of the negativity, but didn't condone what he did.
Powerful. But then there's the huge G question.
The one everyone's thinking.
Stay or go.
Yeah.
After a betrayal, can you actually fix things?
Oof, yeah. That's tough. Have you ever had to make that call?
Oh, man. Haven't we all in some way? Not always romantic, but...
Right, any relationship. And the lecture doesn't give easy answers, but
Yeah.
there is hope.
Really?
They cite this stat, American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. Get this. 70% of couples who do intense therapy after infidelity,
70%. Seriously.
they actually make the relationship stronger.
That's amazing. But therapy's not magic, right?
No, gotta be committed. Vulnerable. Both people wanting to heal.
But sometimes.
Sometimes it is better to walk away.
Absolutely. The lecture's not saying everyone lives happily ever after.
It's about what's healthy.
Right. Knowing your worth. And here's the thing that blew my mind.
Yeah.
They say trust isn't a destination.
What do you mean? It's a journey. Ongoing. It changes. It ebbs and flows.
That makes so much sense. Like expecting it to be perfect all the time.
Unrealistic. Life throws curveballs. We mess up. We grow. Trust has to grow too.
So after betrayal, if you're trying to rebuild,
Don't expect to arrive anywhere. It's about the small steps.
the consistency.
Exactly. Life throws curveballs. We mess up. We grow. Trust has to grow too.
It's like expecting a plant to stay the same size forever.
Right.
Got to water it. If it's sunlight,
Yeah.
trust needs that too. But what does that actually look like, day to day?
Well, first off, ease up on yourself. Remember, 1 to 2 years, they said.
Yeah, it's a long haul.
So if you're not perfect, if you have bad days.
It's okay. Part of the process.
Exactly. But those small things we talked about, the wins, got to keep doing those.
Like what specifically? Give us some examples.
Being really present when your partner talks, not just,
Actually listening.
yes. And following through on promises,
You know-
even tiny ones, builds that consistency.
Shows you're reliable.
And just saying, hey, I appreciate you, doesn't have to be fancy.
Those little things add up over time.
Exactly. They're like deposits in the trust bank, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
But it's not just about actions, right? There's also like the mental game.
Oh, huge E. The lecture talks about it, but I want to emphasize active listening is key.
Hearing versus listening, right?
More than that, it's about really understanding the other person, their feelings, their fears.
Especially after betrayal, there's so much baggage.
Exactly. And being able to listen like that, it builds safety.
Which makes it easier to talk honestly.
You got it. But the other side of that coin, managing your own reactions.
Oh, yeah, because it's going to be tough.
Triggers, anger, maybe even flashbacks to what happened.
You've got to deal with those without blowing up.
Exactly. Acknowledge the feelings, but don't let them hijack the whole process.
So it's like double the emotional intelligence needed.
You said it. Understand yourself and the other person. And then there's one more thing. Can't forget this.
Lay it on me.
Patience. And I mean with yourself, too. Oh, man. Yeah.
You're going to mess up, say the wrong thing, have doubts.
Totally normal.
Give yourself a break. It's a process, remember, not perfection.
Okay, so we've got active listening, managing our emotions, being patient.
Oh, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Like therapy.
Could be. Or support groups, good friends, a mentor,
someone outside the situation.
Yeah, sometimes you're too close to see clearly.
Can't see the forest for the trees, as they say.
Exactly. So after all this talk about trust and betrayal, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
Hmm. I think it's the idea that trust is a journey, not a thing you just have-y.
Yeah, that's huge. Takes the pressure off.
Makes it more realistic. And forgiving, too. It's got to be for the right reasons.
Totally. For you, not for them.
Yeah.
Okay, but as we wrap up, gotta leave our listeners with something to think about.
Oh, right. Hit us with it.
What's one small thing you can do today to make your relationships a little more trusting? Doesn't matter where you're at in the process.
Good question. Could be calling a friend you haven't talked to in a while. Could be having that tough conversation you've been putting off.
Or just appreciating the people you do trust. Reminds you what's good.
Exactly. And hey, if this got you thinking, let us know. Maybe we'll do a whole deep dive on what you're doing to build trust.
That's a great idea. So until then, keep exploring, and remember, even when trust is broken, it's not the end of the story.
There's always a chance to heal, to grow, to build something even stronger.